Hey, this is Mark Moore, aka Tuxedo Mark, at various places on the internet. It's 1:55 p.m. according to the computer clock on Monday, July 7, 2014. And, I have a Castlevania fan film update. Yeah, it's been a while, right? Okay, here's the thing. The script isn't done yet, but I've gotten to the point where I've written all of the material that happens before the game. Plus, I've already adapted the first stage of the game as well. Now, here's the thing. I had conceived this as being a 2-hour film, and I had divided the time up between the various scenes that I had, or the various ideas for different things. Basically, I broke it down into segments, and I allocated as much time as I thought would be needed for each thing. Now, for all of the pre-game material, I had allocated around 54 minutes total, maybe a bit more than 54, for all of that stuff. Just the backstory. And I finished the writing all of the pre-game material on page 27 of the script. So like 26 and a half pages. So, now granted, I don't know that one page would equal 1 minute, but that's kind of the assumption that I've been going on. And it turns out that since I seem to write really compactly, and I get to the point pretty quickly. My writing is really compact, where a lot of stuff can happen in a short amount of space, and that's how I tend to write my fiction, like my prose stories. And it turns out that's how I write a screenplay as well. That is okay, and some of the stuff. Okay, first I don't mention the camera angles very much. Like, I might give a description of how a shot is supposed to be filmed, but I don't put in very many changes in camera perspective in the script. I figure that will probably be more of an in the field type of thing when we're actually filming it. I do mention some insert shots, like insert close up of Sonia's face or whatever, or close up on her eyes or whatever, but I don't detail it very much. Also, for stuff like montages where there's stuff that doesn't need to be really dwelled on too long, like training, showing Sonia getting better and stuff, there could be like a series of montages. So all that I do is that gets like one line, montage Sonia training, or montage Dracula causing evil, or whatever. And I figure that will be figured out more in detail later on, maybe in a second draft of the script, or maybe while we're out shooting even, because I don't want to write too much into the script to be a slave to the script later on while we're filming. Yeah. So some stuff like montages could last anywhere from like 30 seconds to a minute, I would guess, but that's only like one line on the page. So I'm guessing I've written more than 26 or 27 minutes of the movie. It's probably closer to like a half hour. But still. So I've written all of that. Now I can go back in and I want to fill in some more stuff and try to put in more of the historical Transylvania in there, just to put in more history, put in more like local flavor type of stuff. Maybe deal a bit more with religion and the class structure and stuff like that, because Sonia, and this doesn't come across in the American translation, and it's certainly not in the game, not apparent in the game at all, but in the Japanese instruction manual it's indicated that Sonia is rich, and she's the daughter of aristocrats. She lives in a mansion. It details a bit more stuff than you find in the American story. So I'm kind of having fun with that. Sonia's a Catholic. Obviously, you had to be a Catholic to be part of the nobility or the aristocracy back then. And anyone that was an Orthodox Christian was relegated to serfdom. They had to be servants, basically. So I want to deal with that in the story. Like, Sonia obviously would have servants, and I want to deal with how she treats them, how she even befriends them. So I want to use this to explore Sonia's character, and also I'm having Sonia be a bit more modern than a person in that time period would have been. I mean, she's part of the aristocracy, so she could probably get away with a bit more than the lowly peasant could. She wouldn't be like married off, particularly since, for one thing, she's born with special powers, and her grandfather recognizes that, and he trains her to use a whip. He trains her to fight, basically. That she's meant for a higher purpose. And so any kind of worldly concerns she wouldn't really have time for. I mean, he does, have her. She has duties, I'm sure. I don't know exactly what aristocracy would have done back then in that place, in that time. I'm going to have to look more into it and put some more stuff regarding that in there. I mean, I'm having her, she learns to read. She's not illiterate. She learns Latin. She learns to play the piano. That's a hobby that her mother started her on. She rides horses. Now, I had read stuff about falconry and basically using animals to hunt. I'm not gonna do that simply because that would be a major problem to deal with on the set. And so I'm not going to do that. Plus, I think it would make Sonia a bit more modern thinking of basically choosing to not hunt. That you're not supposed to kill animals for sport. And so also I'm kind of making Sonia like a typical teenage girl that she she lives in her own world, she has her own concerns, and then there's this stuff that's being thrust on her. She loses her parents. I don't know if that's really explained in the instruction manual, but since her grandfather trains her, I'm going to assume that her parents were killed, and that's what I did in the story. And she's going to have to deal with that. She's going to have... she grows up learning that she has these responsibilities. She has to keep up appearances, and she also has to train in secret for some unknown final purpose. Also, when dealing with Dracula, first of all, I'm having Dracula appear in a montage at the beginning, and very little of this story occurs outside Sonia's perspective. In fact, she even narrates stuff. She narrates throughout the movie, even in the scenes with the younger Sonia at the beginning, because I want the audience to get used to adult Sonia's voice and make it seem more convincing that it's the same person once the time jump occurs. So Sonia carries a lot of the movie. She has to carry most of the movie. But I'm putting Dracula at the beginning while Sonia narrates about him. You know, him causing evil and just general. It's left vague in the script, but I need to put that in there so that the audience can be introduced to a supernatural element right away, to the monsters and stuff, because if you don't have that at the beginning, then you go through around a half hour of, you know, Sonia growing up, and yeah, Dracula's discussed and people talk about him and stuff, but then after a half hour in, once Sonia starts off on her quest, all of a sudden there are monsters. It would be kind of jarring, so it's best to show a glimpse of them early on at the beginning. But yeah, I'm trying to I'm portraying Sonia as kind of a reluctant hero that's, you know, forced by circumstances, and even that's kind of true to the original story. And you don't see it in the North American instruction manual or nothing, but in the Japanese story, you know, Sonia's trained and stuff, but she's also told by her grandfather over and over since she's little that her powers are meant for more than just herself. So, might Sonia be a little bit self-centered? Yeah. You can certainly extrapolate that from that description. Also, in the instruction manual, Sonia doesn't go to fight Dracula until Dracula's underlings attack her mansion and kill her grandfather. She finds him dying. He tells her that now's the time, you know, and then she takes up the whip and she heads to the castle. Right. Okay. So, Sonia, I'm portraying Sonia as someone that has to be pushed into her role. She's pushed, she's pulled, basically, as she's trying to fight it every step of the way. And, so I really want to have fun with this. And there are some lighthearted moments in the story. It's going to be what would be equivalent to an R rating, just because of, you know, some language, and there's going to be a bit of nudity. I'm kind of going from an 80s anime influence here, like Vampire Hunter D. There's going to be, like, you know, boob shots and butt shots and stuff like that. Nothing like hardcore porn or nothing, just, you know. Anyway, so now I've adapted the first stage, and that took up around 2.5 pages of script, including the final boss battle, which all that I put down for the final boss battle is that it's going to be a rapid cut fight sequence. I didn't, you know, write out each shot, and I'm trying to keep this with a low budget in mind. I don't want to have like too many VFX shots, if at all possible. I want to keep it very low. Maybe try to do things without computer-generated graphics as much as possible, because that would probably simplify things a great deal, but I'm going to figure all that stuff out later. Right now I'm still trying to get through a script. And then there's going to be a bit of an extended epilogue to show what happens with Sonia after her adventure. Now, with the actual game, it's a bit harder to write, but also at the same time, I find myself fast forwarding through the gameplay footage because a lot of stuff is just repetition. So then I put in montage. Sonia fights more of previous enemies. So she's going to fight each enemy at least once, maybe twice in full, and then, you know, montage, and there's going to be a series of shots of Sonia, you know, whipping different enemies or using the axe. She got the axe at the end of, or during the first stage. I'm going to have her use the sub-weapons in the movie. She doesn't do that in the game. The point of it in the game is she finds the historical sub-weapons that Trevor later uses. Never mind the fact that Trevor also finds them in the game. But those are gameplay mechanics, I guess. I guess we're supposed to assume Trevor always had those sub-weapons with him. But anyway, a lot of stuff in the games I'm dismissing as gameplay mechanics, like the hearts. There's not going to be hearts. There's not going to be candles. There are a lot of ropes in the first level, and the Game Boy games tend to use ropes instead of stairs. I put in like 1 or 2 ropes in the screenplay, but most of the time I'm like, okay, it's just a gameplay mechanic, and these stages aren't laid out like a real forest or a real graveyard would be. You know, floating platforms and stuff like that. It's all just gameplay mechanics. So I'm trying to translate that into what a real world adventure would seem like. I do have the orbs appear as power sources, like, you know, for getting the fireball for the web, or the soul powers when Sonia absorbs the soul powers from the end stage bosses. Yeah, so some stuff like that is getting in the script. Others is like, okay, we'll just kind of gloss over this. Yeah. So that's my approach to it. In the first stage, I think there's only like, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's see, slug, floating thing, bat, ghost. There's like 6 regular enemies plus the final boss, the creature's bat. So I'm having them all in there. It's just that you're not gonna see Sonia battle as many of them as there are in the actual game, because that would be very cumbersome and boring. So yeah, so that's my approach. I'm trying to keep the flavor of the levels without, being completely slavishly devoted to the exact layout and everything. So I guess that's all that I have to share right now. I'll post another update once the first draft script is complete. And that's it. It's 2:16 p.m. and thanks for watching.